Soul Warriors. This is Jessica Noel, and I'm coming at you with season 2, episode 7 of my podcast, Uncovering Your Authentic Soulful Self. And today, in season 2, episode 7, we're going to be talking about overcoming fear through surrender and unconditional love. So, before we begin this big and amazing, beautiful topic, let's take a moment to really tune in, to become present. If it's possible for you to close your eyes, go ahead and do so. Let's just take 3 deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. That's good. And I want you to just drop your energy into the heart center like we typically do at the beginning of these, all the thinking, all the doing. See if you can quiet the mind, open the crown, allow the crown energy center to open the top of your head. Just let some light pour through you. Maybe it pours through your whole body, out your palms, out your feet. But really let your presence settle into the heart center. It's okay if you have some settling here above the head, or if you feel tingles on your crown, that's okay. I really want you to drop it into the heart center as well, opening the heart so that you're listening with your soul's wisdom is taking this information in as it resonates to help your conscious mind, your subconscious mind to integrate this information. You're also receiving energetic transmissions. You're also listening with your heart. So opening your heart, being present. And now feel your feet on the ground, kind of anchoring in this energy, anchoring yourself into this moment as we begin this discussion. So this topic is, as I started to get information on this topic about overcoming fear, it became sort of I was talking with different aspects of myself, that you could consider it guides or different parts of me. And I was like, well, then what episode would I do after that? If we're talking about like overcoming fear and all fears, especially in particular, we're going to talk about overcoming the fear of death as well. It's kind of like a drop the mic type of moment, right? It's like once you overcome your fears in general, and once you overcome the fear of death, then what more is there, right? It's like that's huge. But I'm assured that as we talk about this, we will have more to talk about moving forward as well. We may unpack more pieces of this, or we may move on to other topics that are sort of similar, but kind of like side notes that add more to this, and maybe even that elaborate on it. So we're gonna go ahead and talk through this today. So overcoming fears. When we talk about fears, there's so many different types of fears, right? There's fears, and what do fears do? Fears limit us. They create barriers for us for moving forward. They make it so that we have resistance to moving in the direction of what we truly want and desire our lives to be. So they stifle our creative power and our power to manifest what we truly came here to do, and also what we're choosing for our life experience. We may choose something and desire to have something. So when I say desire, I don't want you to look at the frequency of desire. It's a lower frequency. But let's say that your preference, what you'd like to experience, let's talk about it like that. What you'd like to experience in your life is maybe you'd like to have more financial abundance. Maybe you'd like to have a successful business. Maybe you'd like to do more service work. Maybe you'd like to have a divine counterpart, like a high level partner that is, and that this is maybe a topic I should go into, because I've been getting a lot of clear messages on this. There's different types of partnerships. So there's some partnerships that are maybe karmic partnerships, or sort of like a 3D type of relationship. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a type of relationship that people engage in, and they're still learning, and evolution and there can still be some positive benefits of that. There's also soul connections, and some of those soul connections can be karmic in nature. In other words, these two people came together to attempt to overcome some sort of karmic energy from a past soul experience or from a past life, or work through some sort of challenging lesson that they were meant to learn from each other. So if you don't believe in past lives, that's okay. It's really about this life, this time, whatever is coming up in that relationship that's very challenging. It's bringing up the wounds for healing. And so you don't have to balance it on both ends, like we've talked about before. As long as you understand what's coming up for you on your end and you balance whatever that is. And ideally, the way to fully heal it is to move to a place of unconditional love. So that would be sort of like what a lot of people are calling karmic relationships, but they still have there still is sort of the soul connection that magnetizes you to it. So a lot of times these are very magnetic, sometimes even very addictive type of encounters. So you might mistake that for, oh my God, that's my twin flame or that's my soulmate, because there can be an intensity with that. But sort of feeling a magical, perhaps. There's other connections that are soulmate connections that they have a very positive energy to them. There's a peacefulness. There may be an intensity as well, but there's also like this sense of growth and evolution. Sometimes it's intense and it acts like this catalyst for transformation for each of you. Sometimes one of them kind of one or both of them have to kind of separate and do their own inner work and then maybe come back together, or maybe it was just meant to act as a catalyst. Other soul connections are safe and easy, somebody that you can talk to for hours and hours, and that you just get each other, you are on the same frequency, on the same resonance. Those types of soul connections, I've been so the twin flame connection would be more of the one I just described, that there was this intensity and it was this catalyst for change and there was mirroring and so on going on, but it wasn't so much of a karmic nature. But yes, it did bring some things up, but that could be considered a twin flame connection. There's lots of similarities. There's an intensity involved, but there's also learning, growth, evolution, and a lot of beauty with that. And then there's the soulmate connections that are just sort of pleasant and you can move forward in a healthy relationship with. But then there's something that's new that I am calling divine counterpart, and I think other people are calling it that as well. So divine counterpart is a relationship that I did not expect to be talking about this. This is what wants to come through though. Divine counterpart is a relationship where your frequencies match each other. And this is the type that's safe, where you just understand each other. You're resonating at the same frequency. You can actually have a relationship that is not a 3D relationship. It's in the higher frequencies. And that is what we're moving into more and more. There's going to be some people that are going to be blazing the trail with that to having a 5D relationship, is what I would term it, where it is a relationship based on unconditional love. So I have a relationship workshop coming up this Saturday, and it's going to help those of you that are in partnerships, or maybe those of you that are single that are preparing for partnerships, to move in this direction. So these twin flame relationships that maybe you're still struggling, or some of the soulmate relationships, they can, the information I've received is they can actually evolve into this divine counterpart relationship. There is a possibility. There was an activation done, and there is a possibility of evolving into that type of relationship. But there are some people that will be starting these 5D relationships to sort of usher these in and make them more accessible and easier to sort of entrain to. Entraining meaning like to follow into that energy and to make it easier for more and more people to transfer or shift. The shift is a better word, shift their relationships into that. Okay, so back to fear. So there's a lot of fear often. I guess we'll talk through that surrounding relationships and surrounding when a relationship is going to come, or loss of a relationship, fear of abandonment. There's so many different ways that fears can be acting out in your life. But again, what it ultimately does is it creates belief systems, and it creates barriers to you being able to live the life that you choose and that you want to live, and have the experiences that you want to live. So it's very important to overcome fear. So how to overcome fear has been a very challenging question for a lot of people. Fear is also anxiety, right? So if you're anxious about driving, or you're anxious about doing certain things, that's fear. That's fear taking the form, and it's causing a reaction in your body. So that's a form of fear. There's also fear that creates a desire to run away and isolate. Maybe you're afraid of being in a relationship because you've had a trauma, something you've perceived as traumatic when a relationship ended. And so you're afraid of having to go through those emotions and feelings again. Maybe there's a fear. There's so many different fears. Maybe you have phobias. Maybe you're afraid of moving forward because you don't know what the unknown is. There's so many people that have a fear of the unknown, of what comes next. And it can be almost, it can cause a paralyzing freezing effect or a staying in the comfort zone type of thing. What we really want to do is we want to surrender to the fear. And there's that saying, like, there's nothing to fear except for fear itself. And that's absolutely true, because once you drop the bucket, I like to use that word, drop the bucket into what that fear is. So often what we do from fear is we run from it. We resist. We're like, I'm not looking at that. I don't want to see that. I don't want to think about that. I'm just going to look the other way. And it's like you immediately turn the other way away from fear. I want you to go into it and I want you to face it, because you know who we are, right? We're soul warriors, and we don't run from fear. We face fear. We drop the bucket into the well of fear, of whatever the fear is. I like this analogy. Drop the bucket into it, pull it up, and see what is its contents. What does it consist of? A lot of the time, there's this sort of free floating fear, maybe surrounding a certain area of your life, a certain topic or certain situation, or maybe a certain activity, and it's unclear what you're afraid of in regards to it. So drop the bucket into that fear, into that well, and pull it up and sift through it. Okay, well, what is it that I'm afraid of here? First, you might need to know that. What are you afraid of? Are you afraid that you're going to be abandoned if you get into another relationship? Are you afraid that they're going to do something unpredictable and break your trust because you've had that happen before? Are you sort of living in these past experiences, and so you're not allowing yourself a chance for something new? Or if it were to be like a fear of driving, what are you afraid of with driving? Are you afraid that you're going to make a mistake? Are you afraid that somebody else is going to make a mistake? Are you afraid that you can't, because you can't control someone else's actions? So is it more about that? Are you afraid that you're going to die? If you have anxiety, you have a lot of anxiety and you're not sure what that's about, it could be that you're afraid. If you're having physical symptoms and then that turns into anxiety, let's drop the bucket and see what that is about. That may be about, I'm having these physical symptoms and then I'm panicking because I'm afraid I'm going to die. So there's a lot of people that are afraid of death. There's also a lot of people that hold on to this fear, especially right now. It's moving through the collective because it's trying to purge, and it's a fear of death. So we're going to go right all the way in to the biggest fear of all. This is a fear that we don't want to look at. We don't want to think about the fact that we are going to die. I'm going to die. You're going to die. We're all going to die. And our loved ones will die as well. Some of our loved ones will die before us. Children that we know might die. We often think about this as like, well, this happens to other people, but it's not going to happen to me. I'm not going to lose anyone significant in my life. That happens to other people, that it's not going to happen to me. So there's all these like defenses and these ways that we sort of refuse to look at the truth of what this human existence is. This human existence is that we are divine energy. We are source energy, spiritual beings having a physical experience for a brief time. We are spiritual beings in a physical body having a physical human experience for a brief time. It is a drop in the bucket if you look at the expanded reality of what we've lived and what our soul will continue to live. And so part of this human experience is death. Death is an important part of that. People will die. You will die. So we have to look that in the eye and say, okay, what does that mean? If you're afraid of dying, or you're afraid of someone that you love dying, what does that mean? And how do you move through that? You have to really surrender to, okay, that is a truth. That's a truth. First, you have to accept it, right? You have to accept that that is a truth of this reality. So the more that we resist it, or we run from it, or we refuse to look at it, the more it's going to fester there, and it's going to affect us in other ways. We have to really understand that. I want to say something really important right now. The biggest way to start to overcome this fear of death is through two things. Trust. You have to trust in the divine. you have to trust that everything is being taken care of, that you're being taken care of, that your family's being taken care of, and that whatever happens is in the divine plan. And you have to find your own path to that, right? The way that I pray, the way that I meditate is the way that I do it, the way that works for me, and the way that builds trust for me. And the way that you do it might be a little different. Now, I am going to offer something in the spring that's going to be like an initiation to a brief meditation practice. This has been in the works since like 2016, I would say, 2017. And I've been told the time is now. So it's going to be a very brief one that you can do the same thing every day so that you can start to get into a routine of the same exact practice. And within that practice, you can start to have these lovely experiences. But the reason I'm bringing up a practice of prayer and meditation, because that's your foundation. Remember going back to season 1, episode 1, where we talked about redefining your relationship with the divine, because that's your foundation for life. That's your foundation for trust. That's your foundation for everything. So trusting the divine, starting to work with, some people like to work with guides, like certain ascended masters. They like to call them in, or certain archangels. Only beings of love and light that you are very familiar with, you should ever call in. I can help you with that. And you can just pray to whoever you are familiar with or comfortable with. Use the word God or omnipresent love or the divine, whatever word that is, or whatever beings, maybe it's just archangels, certain ascended masters, and really start to develop a relationship of trust. Start to ask for tangible evidence of their existence in your daily life, and then start to pay attention. If you say that prayer every day, you're going to start to see synchronicities, you're going to start to see signs. And as you evolve and grow, and as you come to maybe some of our events, a lot of our events that are coming up, I just sent an email recently and I'll post it on Facebook as well. They will help you dramatically increase your frequency, which allows you to have a lot more direct spiritual experiences. Direct spiritual experiences will vastly help you to trust in the divine and in the divine order. So it's really about, you got to just surrender to, there is a plan and I don't know what it is. And I got to be okay with not knowing what it is. A lot of times fear looks like you're trying to control all these outcomes, right? You're trying to control outcomes so that you can prevent negative outcomes. Maybe you've had outcomes you've perceived as negative before. So you're like, if I just control all these things and try to account for all these things, which looks like anxiety and control and fear, then I'll prevent all that. Then that's not real. You can't prevent anything. All you're doing is wasting energy and time and harming yourself and staying in a lower vibration, right? You have to let go. What do you have to do? You really have to let go and let God, let spirit, because that's happening anyways. What you're doing is you're holding on real tightly, and it's like they've got you. Spirit has you. You're taken care of, you're loved, you're supported, you're one with that. And so you holding on tightly and trying to prevent things and being afraid of this, that this is going to happen, that's going to happen. You got to just let go, because you're already being taken care of. All that stuff is just in your head. It's not real. Fear is an illusion. That's what's meant by the only thing to fear is fear itself. It is an illusion. It is not real. It's an energy that comes to you. Let it be an energy that goes from you. It is not real. The only extent to which it's real is if you give it energy and you allow it to stay. Don't allow it to stay. Don't allow it to be a house guest in your body temple, in your mind, in your energy field. And you can say prayers about that. Please lift this fear from me. I want you to take it. I'm not willing to carry it anymore. I command this fear to leave me now. So when we think about the fear of death, there's a lot of unknowns and uncertainties, right? I'll tell you a personal story. I had an experience where I was having something, I was having a new activation happening for me. This was quite a while ago now. And I was having this energy flow through me that I had before in high frequency situations like meditations and groups and things like that that meant to be like activations. And I was around certain people, one of my teachers especially. And so I had that. It wasn't unfamiliar, but I'd never had that just in my daily life trying to function. And it was also, maybe I would say it was more intense than anything I'd experienced before. So it was like this some people call it like orgasmic flows of energy. Like that they say that your true essence, your soul's true essence is tantra. I read that the other day. It's all like orgasmic flows of energy through the whole body. And in no way is that in a sexual way. It's just trying to describe like this level of bliss and peaceful sensation and pleasant sensation that's rushing through your whole body. So I'm kind of like laying there having that, and and I'm enjoying it, and I've been having it for quite some time. In a lot of people just call that the state of bliss, the state of enlightenment or bliss. So I'm having this, but like I said, I'd never had it like for an extended period of time in mundane life. And at one point, I had a little tiny twinge of fear back here, like, well, you might be having a stroke though, because this is unusual. And I so I went ahead and have somebody come over to like take my blood pressure and vitals and make sure that I was good. Because I mean, I was having some wild experiences along with this, and I was fine. It was just this really intense, heightened spiritual experience. So I had to really let go of that fear, and I had to understand that there was a little bit of that there. I made a call to double check, and I think that was wise. But the biggest thing that was coming up for me prior to that, that I had released, that I believe allowed for that experience to come to me, was I had to release my fear of death. And the fear of death is coming up for many now. But I did not personally have a fear of death, so this might resonate with some of you. My fear of death was, if I die, how will my son be okay? So I have one child, I have a son. And so my fear was all surrounding controlling not dying, because I can't die and leave him alone and him go through all that trauma. So I went through all of this of why I can't die. So I was able to let that go too, because you know what? If I die, if anybody dies early, which I know that I'm not going to, I can see that, and I know what I'm here to do. So that's not going to happen anyway. But the fear came up so heavy and strong, and I had to find a way to release that. So I had already released the fear of my own death, because I had enough trust in spirit that I understood I would just merge into this. I already merge into certain things, and I understood that it would actually expand things for me, and so on and so forth. But me leaving this physical world and leaving him here and all of that and what that would look like and mean, that was what I had to overcome. So for some of you, if you have this fear of dying and leaving people behind, that's what you have to overcome. And the way that I did that was surrendering to his life path, surrendering to the fact that he is also completely protected and supported by the divine, and he also has his life purpose and mission. And if his life purpose and mission were to involve his mother dying at an early age and him having to live without me in the physical body and just in spirit connection, then I had to accept that that was the fact, and that there was nothing I could do to control that. So that's the surrender, right? The finally turning that over and saying, okay, controlling it, attempting to find ways to control or prevent outcomes is futile. I have to accept that everyone has their divine purpose and their divine path, and they're going to walk it. And I can't do anything about it, even if I don't like it, or I'm worried about it, or I'm scared. If somebody's path is to lose a loved one at an early age, or to lose a child, then there's nothing anyone can do about that. That's I believe a lot of these are pre-planned for specific reasons. And whatever your belief is, the fact is you cannot do anything to control or change it. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So the fact that people die, animals die, our loved ones die, we don't know when it's coming or what's going to happen. What does that mean? Do we live in more fear because we finally are looking at that and we're not running away from that fact? No. What we do is we live in the moment, and we live with more unconditional love, because we remember that life is fleeting, and that the moments that we have with each other are numbered, and we don't know how small of a number that is or how large of a number that is. So the more that we can live in the present moment, become more present, become more loving, enjoy each moment, each second we have with our loved ones. And any of the low frequency things we might be doing, we might be fighting, we might be irritated with them, or whatever that is that you might be doing, see if you can bring an end to that by saying, you know what? I don't know how much time I have on this planet. I don't know how many more of these experiences we can have. I don't know how many more times I can see this loved one or hold them in my arms. So let me enjoy every moment more fully. So that's the answer. Surrendering to it, moving towards unconditional love. How can I enjoy all of these moments because they are fleeting more fully? So coming more into the present body. Ways you can do that is through the breath, paying attention to your breathing. That helps you to come into your body. You can do some mindfulness activities where you feel sensations on your skin, you feel your feet on the floor, breathing slow, long, and deep. You can do 7-second breathing has come up a lot lately. You inhale 7 seconds, exhale 7 seconds. There's also a breathing a friend of mine was just sharing with me called, and it helps with trust. It's where you do breath holds at the top and bottom. You could do your 7-second breathing, hold at the top, and you want to hold past when the mind is telling you that you can't hold your breath anymore, because you are the master of your mind. So not only does it help you master your mind and help you develop trust within your own self and your own body, but it helps you to trust the divine. It helps you to trust that the breath will come. Things will come as they're supposed to. So it's doing a lot of things. It is also helping to reset your nervous system, but it's doing a lot of things subconsciously when you do certain types of breath work that's breath holding. So anyway, you hold it at the top. You hold it past the point where your body wants to tell you your mind wants to tell you have to breathe. Hold it at least a little past that. Then exhale all the way down, exhale all the air out. Hold at the bottom. Again, hold past when your mind, it's not your body, it's your mind, is telling you, I have to breathe, I have to breathe. Hold past that. You control the mind. And then inhale again as deeply as you can. Hold again. So do several cycles of those. A hand gesture, a mudra. You could do different mudras with that. You could do a mudra with the index finger, the ring fingers. Saying all the fingers except for the one it is. The middle finger. You could do that type of mudra. The mudra that is the most loving, unconditional love type of mudra with breath holds. I was just shown this, and it's like this. So you don't have to count. You don't have to do anything. You just take as full, long, slow, and deep as a breath as you can. Inhale, hold at the top for as long as you can. Hold past your mind telling you can't. Exhale all the way to the bottom. Hold past your mind telling you have to breathe. Inhale again, all the way up to the top. So back to this initiation and meditation practice, there will be some sort of breath hold involved in it. And this practice is going to be something that you can do in a very short amount of time, like 5 to 10 minutes a day. But you can also expand it, because I know that we really need, so many people are kind of flopping around of like guided meditation. Do I do breathing? What kind of meditation do I do every day? And there are meditation paths out there that you can do, but I want to offer you something that's simple, that's easy, that will give you very rapid results, and that you can do daily. So that's going to come in the spring. So look out for that. That's going to help you with trust. That's going to help you with your foundation to the divine. So I want to talk a little bit about unconditional love before we move on. So again, I'm asked to share something personal, and I protested a little bit, but I will do what I'm asked to do, what I'm guided to do. So how many people have been in some type of abusive relationship? Raise your hand, right? Lots of us have been in some sort of abusive relationship, whether it be physical, emotional, mental. So I was in an abusive relationship. In this abusive relationship, it was a long, long time ago now, quite some time ago. But in this relationship, I actually approached it in this, I was like totally vulnerable, totally open-hearted. I was on the spiritual path. I was like, this and that. And so I knew his past, but I continued anyway. I was sort of in this magical fantasy land. So I had to learn how to come out of that and face reality of what is this person in front of me showing me. That was one of the teachings I had to learn in relationships. What are they showing me? Let's come out of my magical fantasy land of what I want it to be, or what I'm overlooking, and what is this person really, really, truly showing me? But anyway, so I'm in this abusive relationship, and it didn't obviously start that way. It became that way. Part of why it became that way was I was responsible for parts of this, right? So in no way was I responsible for someone being abusive. You're never responsible for someone else being abusive. But why are you in that in the first place? Maybe it's for some sort of growth and learning. Maybe it's because you're doing certain behaviors that are making it last to a point where it becomes toxic or abusive. So in my case, I was like, I was wanting to try harder. I was wanting to fix it. So it became more toxic with my resistance to let go, right? I was getting all the signs, really, if I look back very early on, that I needed to let go of this relationship. This was not a match for me. So, um, after it was several months until I started getting those signs, but I wanted to hold on. And there were a variety of reasons that I wanted to hold on, but also hoping that the other would change and hoping the other would fix and so on and so forth. But ultimately, that relationship kind of I want I would say back then I believed that it lowered my frequency or that it made me somebody that I wasn't. But as I have grown and healed, I see that I stepped down in my frequency to try to match his frequency to try to heal the relationship. So I was trying so hard not to let go. I wanted to keep it. I wanted to heal it. Him to change. I wanted him to hear me and be able to change. But that wasn't something that he was able or maybe willing to do. And it was my job to not be naive and to have better boundaries and to let go. So letting go of that eventually, after some things that I perceived as traumatic, what I ended up having to do, being forced to do. So some of you listening, this might be resonant. The thing that I was forced to do in order to heal from that relationship, and I told somebody this yesterday, they said forced. I said, yes, forced. After some time of processing this, and it would ebb and flow, it would come up again, and here we are again. We have some anger, we have some resentment, or maybe we have some sadness, or maybe we have some longing, or maybe we have some love. So, and then there would be times of nothing and not really thinking about anything, and then it would come up again. So the only way I could finally fully, completely let go and heal that relationship and heal my feelings about it and my experience of it was to move to unconditional love. I had to unconditionally love all parts of this person that had been abusive and had done quite heinous things, honestly. And so, me being able to move to full unconditional love, unconditionally loving every single part of him. Now, did that mean I would ever be in a relationship with him again? Absolutely not. So this could also apply to a friendship. You might not be able to be in that friendship anymore because of some of the behaviors they've shown you, but you can unconditionally love all parts of them. So this kind of goes back to the locks and keys of the Yoga Sutras that I think I might have mentioned in a episode not too long ago. But the locks and keys, one of the locks and keys of how you deal with different people. One of them is if they're, I think they call them it's the translation is kind of funny. I think they call them wicked. So what they mean by that are people that are out to harm other people. They're in that place where they're just going to harm other people, whether they just can't help it. They're in this patterning and that's what they're going to do. So of course I wouldn't be able to be in that abusive relationship. And so that would never be a choice ever again. But me moving to unconditionally loving every part of that person, and that's what I still hold today, is complete unconditionally love. It freed me. It causes freedom. So when you're in a place where you don't know what to do because you're in a lot of pain, your answer is almost certainly unconditionally loving that situation or that person. Moving to unconditional love is almost always going to be your answer. So, if someone meets somebody that they feel like could be that they have a soul connection with, maybe it's like this love at first sight, this like, whoa, who's this person? You've got some kind of a wild eye contact. You think this must be like a twin flame or a soulmate, and it's just sort of this undeniable thing. But then maybe it's not really coming together, or maybe it never did. And maybe you have feelings about that because you had wrapped up all of these beliefs and ideas of who that person might be to you. So if something like that were to occur, then what do? You move to unconditional love. You love all parts of that person, whether they choose to be with you or not. And so this goes the same with unrequited love. Let's say you love somebody and they've decided to be with someone else, or for whatever reason, they just have not chosen to pursue you or be with you. You move to unconditional love. Um, if you try other things and in the current frequencies and energies we're in, it's probably not going to work. So I speak from experience. So you cutting them off, saying, no, I'm not, releasing them. I let go. No, no, you have to love them unconditionally. You have to love all parts of them. You have to love all parts of their souls. You have to love any experiences that you may have had with that person in past soul, maybe past lives or past soul experiences. Love all of those. Love the person, even if you can't be with them. So unconditionally loving them. It's so easy. For example, for me, it's so easy for me to unconditionally love all of my clients. I told somebody not that long ago, they were asking me, well, how do you not attach to your clients? So this is important, right? Anything that's not unconditionally loving, and anything that's fear is almost always based in attachment, right? So we have to release attachment. And they said, well, how do you not attach to your clients? Because this person was having a hard time not attaching to her clients. And I said, the way I said, I'm not really sure. It's just kind of how things have been for me. I love them. I truly love every single one of my client, everybody that comes here to the center, that comes to see me. I truly love them 100% unconditionally. And at the same time, I am completely fine with never ever seeing them again. And that seems to be a very interesting paradox, right? How do you love somebody so strongly and so unconditionally, but you are perfectly fine with never ever seeing them again? It's actually a much more pure form of love. It's a much more intense form of love. So then when we start to talk about carrying that into our romantic relationships, into our family relationships, into all of our other relationships, friendships that are more closely bonded, that we want to keep them in our lives because, we have experience with them. We want them to be there for us. We want to keep having time with them. That's where we're headed. That's what we have to start doing. We have to start loving them unconditionally, which means without attachment. And the paradox is, once we start releasing attachment to needing to have this relationship stay in our life, we got to go one day at a time, one moment at a time, living in the moment. But once we start releasing the attachment to having to have this to be stable and consistent, nothing actually ever is stable and consistent. If we're honest with ourselves, we want it to be, we might commit to it being, that's fine, but we never know if it is. That's a complete unknown that we can't control. So once we start detaching from it, the love grows stronger and it expands and it becomes more of a divine love. It becomes a higher frequency of love. And the path to getting there, though, to finally releasing that attachment and allowing yourself to let go. And as you let go, the fear is leaving, right? The fear is leaving of whatever the attachment, whatever that fear that was combined with the attachment. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to have, whatever all of those thought forms are that are creating this fear or that are sustaining it or keeping it in place. Once you let go and just fully surrender, and that might be prayer and that might be a process for you, and I can help you with that too. You release attachment. You want to release attachment to all people. Friends, lovers, romantic partners. The more you release attachment to all people, the more peace you have, the higher your frequency is, the more love that you can contain, and the more love that you have for this person. So it is a paradox. As soon as you let them go and surrender that completely, that attachment to them, you actually start loving them more, but it's in a way that does not cause pain. Unconditional love causes no pain. Okay. So the way to overcome all fears is to love whatever that is that the fear is. Unconditionally love it. Unconditionally love that part of yourself. Maybe it's a little girl part. Maybe it's some part that had some kind of experience and now that's stuck in there, right? It's unconditional love. It's surrendering to it. Yes, I have this in me. I have this fear in me. I have this attachment in me. Acknowledge it. Be honest with yourself. And now I'm ready to let it go. I'm ready to release the attachment to it and move towards unconditional love. Now, when I talked about the abusive relationship that I was in and I was moving toward unconditional love, I knew that that's what I had to do for quite some time. And I was working through it. I was working towards it, right? There were some things that had to purge out before I could fully get there, but I got there and I'm still there. And I had another situation come up where there was some pain and things not coming together. And I move towards unconditional love there too. That's always the solution. That's what removes your pain. Unconditional love. Loving all parts of the person, and also loving them regardless of if they choose you or not, and releasing attachment, right? So overcoming fear is about dropping the bucket, looking at the contents of it, knowing what it is, releasing attachment, trusting in the divine, and increasing, amplifying your connection to the divine. Because the more you're connected to it, the more direct experiences you have, the more you're going to trust that no matter what happens, you're being guided and you are the one that's creating your life. You're co-creating it. You're being supported. You can manifest anything you desire. The only thing that's limiting you is your own thought forms, your own limiting beliefs, and your own fear. So the more that you pray, the more that you connect to the divine, the more synchronicities you have, the more signs you have, the more you're going to be able to trust, the more you're going to be able to surrender, the more wisdom or change in perspective that you might receive through sessions with somebody like me, or through listening to a podcast, or maybe it would just be an aha moment that can change your perspective. That will help as well. But remember, the answer is always more love. The answer is always unconditional love. So that is loving without attachments to any type of outcome, and not needing someone to be any certain way, and not having any expectations, and live in the moment. And you could do it. I promise you could do it. Okay, so let's go ahead and wrap up for today. There's probably going to be some more to say on that. Let's go ahead and wrap up. So close your eyes if that's possible. Take a couple deep breaths. I really want you to focus on your heart center now. Breathe in and out through the heart center. And there's this big ball of light. Envision, know, feel a ball of light being placed in your heart center, allowing it to expand and clear your heart center from all past woundings, all perceived losses, all perceived traumas. Remember, everything is happening for you, not to you, but you may have stored it as a loss or trauma. The truth is, there is no separation. That means there is no loss. It's all an illusion. But if your body has stored it that way, let this ball of light clear, cleanse, dissolve, heal all that which has come before now. Let it increase your capacity for love. Allow it to open your heart more fully in the back, all the way out to the front, so that you can experience, and so that you can transmit and offer more unconditional love. And that wraps up our episode for today. I've so enjoyed connecting with you, and I will so look forward to the next time. Bye for now.